All right, everybody. I've been talking about January as one of my favorite fantasy hoops months, and it feels like we're starting to hit ludicrous speed. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, the Sports Ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski, and FSWA Hall of Famer Steve, Dr. A. Alexander. And basically, right now, it just feels like every big name is putting up big numbers. Some of these injury situations have created a lot of waiver wire action, and then we've got a trade deadline starting to pivot situations pretty significantly here. So we're going to talk about all of that. We'll get you ready for tonight's games. We'll also look ahead to the weekend, covering all 30 teams. Before we do all of that, let's say hi to our sponsor. Hey, BetOnline. You guys continue to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC. BetOnline is your number one sports betting source for the new year, from touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks. BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. Hey, Doc. How you doing, buddy?
It's been a week.
It's been a week.
We have seen each other's faces.
I know.
Bro, I'm battling a cold right now. I'm not feeling 100%, and the runniness factor of my nose right now could get kind of gross. So just brace yourself.
You know, when you said the word runniness, I was getting a little scared there for a second. I thought other things were going to happen.
It's a creepy term.
It's a creepy word. Who'd have ever thought of that word? So I think I'll pivot out of this. You know, we've got trade deadline stuff, pivoting teams into different places. I'm going to pivot out of the runniness factor. We're going to get into, we got Paolo Banchero's returning. So that's cool. I know I'm low-key on Goga Bitadze watch as a result of that. We got another marquee game with Oklahoma City and New York. We got Keon Ellis, baby. I don't see a big enough smile over there, Doc. We got Keon Ellis.
Victory lap time for Aaron Bruski.
I'll go easy on you guys. And then another B150 darling, Amin Thompson going off. Anthony Edwards, maybe going off. We got all sorts of stuff. Kyrie Irving went down. That's a huge deal in Dallas. We'll cover all of that and more. Let's start with the Friday games. We got New Orleans at Philly. Philly a 4-point favorite as of last night. Trey Murphy out with an ankle. Herbert Jones out with a shoulder. Brandon Ingram still out. Zion back. DeJounte Murray questionable. We got the other side. Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond, KJ Martin, Kyle Lowry out. Paul George probable. So what's cooking in this New Orleans Philly game that you'd like to talk about here today?
Well, on a personal note, I have Paul George on the injured list in one of my leagues. I need to activate him, but I don't have anybody to drop. So that's sitting in the back of my head right now, and I'm kind of stressed out about it. If I had it all to do over again, Paul George would not be on my roster, and I would not have these kind of headaches to deal with. But Zion, let's talk about Zion real quick. He came back Tuesday and played well and had that windmill dunk heard around the world, and of course took Wednesday off. Of course he did, and now he's back. So my dream for all of you who have Zion on your team is that he goes off tonight and somebody wants him in a trade and you're able to move him, because they've won seven games. I think they're 7-31. Move him. This is a flash in the pan. Get rid of him if he goes off tonight.
Yeah, it feels like, I don't know what they're doing in New Orleans. I can't imagine they want to be in the Zion business anymore. I mean, a future of Zion for the next 3 years has to make people in New Orleans kind of sick. I mean, they've seen this thing for a couple years now, and maybe it gets better, but almost don't you have to just run away if you're New Orleans? Like, I mean, could you like make a business decision and say, okay, these are the 3 years that it's gonna work out? these upcoming 3 years. So to me, this feels like a showcase. I don't know if they could deal a Zion in today's NBA trade climate. It seems hard to do that.
And it's a double showcase. I mean, they're showcasing him possibly because, I mean, there's no other reason to have him playing if they've won 7 games. It's a showcase for reality, and it's also a chance for you to showcase him if you've got him on your fantasy team.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm sure he's rising in the minds of folks watching out there. But at the same time, you got to take that momentum. I mean, maybe you took the plunge this year. Maybe you thought this is the year, and that's okay. I mean, anybody who's watched the Duke highlights of Zion Williamson knows what he could have been had everything progressed well. It hasn't progressed well. So I'm with you. That's a sell high. I don't know that I got anything else that I'm really, truly watching. I know Gershon Yabusele's been decent lately, and then DeJounte Murray has picked up the pace a little bit. I think there's still room to buy low. But let's get out of that game. Let's get to Milwaukee, -4 at Orlando. You got Giannis, Lillard, and Middleton all probable. And then on the Orlando side, of course, you do have Paolo Banchero returning tonight. Jalen Suggs seems like he's going to be missing a little bit of time with that back issue. So what are you watching for in this one?
Welcome back, Paolo. That's awesome news. I don't have him anywhere, but it's cool. I'm just happy for him. I think Middleton, I never got behind Chris Middleton. When he came back, I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And then Camlin was like, I think he's going to be all right. And he came out and had like a streak of 6 games in a row with 20 points. And he actually looked pretty good, but now his ankles are still messed up. He's coming off the bench, and he hasn't been great in his last couple games. I feel like the sell-high window has passed, but I'm glad that I don't have to deal with Chris Middleton.
Yeah, I mean, he was at least mildly productive there for a little bit. That was fun. What I'm watching for there is Bobby Portis. I feel like he's going to start falling off. He's had just an amazing run over the last month, and then Brook Lopez finally got up and going a little bit lately. So it might be a little too late to try to get it on Brook Lopez, but I think he's going to start heading back up the ranks. So that's interesting. Like I mentioned in the open, Goga Bitadze, he's just rolling. I mean, he's like a top 60 guy on the season. Top 70 on the season in just 25 minutes a game. So it's been a lot better lately, more like a top 50, top 40 guy. Does Paolo return and ruin that is one thing I'm watching for. And then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, top 105 this season. He's playing in all of the games. If you caught him during the last month or so, it's a little bit better than that even. And, if he keeps playing all the games, he keeps playing like this, he might finish inside the top 75. So I just think that's interesting for a guy that doesn't really do much in the stat sheet. Let's get to Golden State.
Bro, real quick. And one last point on this game. As long as Jalen Suggs, who you mentioned being out for a little bit, is out, Cole Anthony is a DFS play and also a short-term pickup. He's looked really good with Suggs out.
I wonder in DFS if folks, if they kind of mark a player like Cole Anthony and just kind of set him aside on their spreadsheet and say, you know what, we've seen, I don't even know how you would deploy him, because every now and then that guy just reaches out there and just has a massive line, and it just feels like it's coming out of nowhere. So that's interesting stuff right there. Let's get to Golden State at Indy. We got Indy as 8.5-point favorites. Golden State off the schneid. You got Stephen Curry doubtful. It's not just knee precautions, but it's also the thumb. Keeps banging that thing up. Andrew Wiggins out for personal reasons. I think it's due to the birth of a child. Draymond Green questionable for rest on this back-to-back. You got Brandon Podziemski doubtful, abdominal injury. Jonathan Kuminga out for a while. On the other side, Tyrese Halliburton questionable with the left ankle sprain. Miles Turner questionable. So as we look into this game, what's catching your eye here?
I mean, it's got to be a Dennis Schroeder game, right? Like, Dennis Schroeder should go off. No Curry, no Wiggins, maybe no Green. You kidding me? And then your boy Buddy Hield had a good game the other day because so many people were out. I don't trust him. I'm not running out there and picking him up, but I will have Dennis Schroeder in my DFS tonight.
Yeah, 2 good games in a row for Buddy. About top 75 value, 15 points, 3.5 triples, 6.5 boards, 4 assists in 28 minutes per game. It's going to come back. It's going to happen. It never doesn't happen. It's just a question of how much distance between the bad games and the good games he had about a month and a half with bad games, so you couldn't really hang on. I probably held on longer than anybody, it feels like. And I timed that perfectly. The minute I completely let go, he got back into the good stuff. Trace Jackson Davis, a top 80 player over the last 11 games. And that's been nice. He's been about 12-9 with 2 defensive stats per game. So hopefully they'll just stay doing that in Golden State. On the Indiana side, Halliburton now top 16 on the season in 9-cat formats. There's a couple of big games tonight, not so much with fantasy ramifications. One of them is, or actually not tonight, but Oklahoma City, New York. This thing's like just tantalizing. There's been a lot of good games involving Oklahoma City or Cleveland or Boston lately. And Oklahoma City goes into New York as a 3-point favorite. They just lost to Cleveland. I feel like they're looking for a marquee win, but what are you watching for in this game? Karl-Anthony Towns questionable with the right knee.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot to talk about fantasy-wise. The only guy that seems to come and go fantasy-wise on those two teams is Lou Dort. Like, I want to believe in Lou Dort. I want to be able to rely on Lou Dort, and you just can't. I mean, he's there one day, he's gone the next. His defense is so important to the Thunder. It's ridiculous. And if you remember at the beginning of this season, you and I were making predictions, and I believe my finals prediction was Oklahoma City versus the Knicks. I'll be watching this game just for fun and to hope that my boy Jalen Williams keeps it going.
Yeah, he had a great move the other day that was making the rounds on the internet. I don't even know how to explain it on air. Just go try to find it. Alex Caruso out for this one. Miles McBride questionable with that hamstring. Seems to looks like it's going to linger. Not that it matters because they play 40 minutes per game in the starting unit. I'm watching out for Karl-Anthony Towns' knee. That's just been on my radar for a bit. I hope it doesn't head down a bad path, but we'll see about that. I just think Oklahoma City, this is a game that they'll probably circle, and I think that they have more than enough ammunition to get the win. You also have Isaiah Hartenstein, if I could talk this morning. He's going back to his old home in New York. That'll be interesting and fun. I think this game will be played very intensely, and it'll be fun to watch, but I will take Oklahoma City -3 on the betting side. Then we get to Sacramento at Boston. De'Aaron Fox questionable. Interestingly, a picture of Fox and Mike Brown having dinner. I don't know where that dinner occurred, but they had that dinner in the last, 24, 48 hours. So that's fun and interesting for all the folks that wanted to say that Fox had a problem with Mike Brown. Doesn't really appear to be the case. Derek White off the injury report. I'll let you talk about this game, sir. I got nothing to talk about here.
Well, I mean, victory lap on Keon Ellis, dude. You stuck with him all year through the bad times, and now he's sort of become the guy, the third most important player in Sacramento right now, in my opinion. So good job on that. Peyton Pritchard has really been bad. Like 3 of his last 4 games, really nothing. And, he had such a huge lead in 6th Man of the Year award, being a favorite by Vegas. And DeAndre Hunter is closing that gap, but Bogdan Bogdanovic has come back just in time to slow him down. Peyton Pritchard needs to have a good game tonight, or I might be looking at the panic button. I'm just calling it a slump right now, but if he disappears again tonight, I'm gonna start to officially be worried.
I think it's buy low territory. I think that especially I don't have the East sort of like closed up for Boston. Obviously, Cleveland's doing their thing. I'm kind of curious if Cleveland has a late season downturn. It might be the case that they're playing over their head right now. At least I'm trying to will that into existence because a certain Detroit coach and a coach of the year bet is sitting there just staring me in the face. But let's not get into that too much. But I do think it's buy low territory for Peyton Pritchard. And then Keon Ellis, top 135 this season in 9-cat formats, 21 minutes per game, top 100 over the last 9 games, top 45 over the last 6 games, getting you 2.2 triples, 2.5 steals, 0.8 blocks in 30 minutes per game. That's why I had him ranked so highly in the B150. And it feels like they're finally figuring out in Sacramento that he's a guy that needs to be on the floor 30 plus minutes per game, regardless of who's healthy or not.
Bru,
I see a finger there.
You want to hear something that is going to make you sick? Probably not.
The-
Keon
I-
Ellis is 5.8% rostered in ESPN leagues.
yeah, what you need to do is you need to run, don't walk to the waiver wire and pick him up. I mean, that's my recommendation. I don't look, to be just completely transparent. It's possible Sacramento screws this up, but with his stat set, with what he does, and they haven't even scratched the surface with his offense yet. I mean, it's funny when they lose like Fox and then they need to rely on him, and all of a sudden he's doing things offensively that, you know, he should have been doing the entire time. You're starting to see that there's levels to the Keon Ellis experience in Sacramento. So yeah, just get out there. My opinion is you just get out there, add him to your team, and then deal with the fallout if it happens. You don't get that upside very often. Okay, guys. Are you guys enjoying this live show? If you are and you're watching on YouTube, drop a thumbs up on this video. That would help us out a lot. If you're tuning in on Twitter, please give us a follow at Ethos Fantasy NBA. And if you're listening on the pod feed, do us a solid. Give us a 5-star review if you're so inclined. We got Washington at Chicago, minus 11.5 Chicago. I don't know if they've been favored by that much all season long. Semi short injury list here. We got Jordan Poole questionable, Alexander Sarr questionable, and Malcolm Brogdon out. Rashawn Holmes, which shows up on my sheet as Rashawn Holmes. Rashawn Holmes questionable. And this feels like Washington's trying to just reestablish Kyle Kuzma's value. Chicago's got Ayo Dosunmu getting ramped up faster with the calf injury. It seems like he's getting ramped up faster than the reporting can keep up with. Where are you at with Washington and Chicago?
I think that Bub Carrington, we've been talking about him all year, and he just won't go away. Malcolm Brogdon is hurt again. Like, is anyone surprised that Malcolm Brogdon is hurt? No, no one is surprised. And they've won 6 games. They are clearly in the hunt for Cooper Flag. As long as Bub's out there running the offense, turning it over, banging threes, it's all good. They're going to keep losing games. I am into Bub Carrington again. I'm fired up about him. And then Nick Vucevic is a walking double-double. So I like betting Vuce double-double props.
Yeah, I think Bub Carrington, you know, the runniness factor in Washington, you just don't know what's going to happen from game to game. They're just going to, you know, possibly get into these very loose games where steals and blocks are available. It's interesting about him right now is that he's been a top 100 guy, and he's doing it with efficient shooting, no defensive stats, and practically no turnovers. And that's just not the book on him right now. Elsewhere in Washington, Justin Champagnie still a top 100 guy over the last 2 weeks. I'm seeing him dropped in a lot of leagues, and I keep thinking this is the worst that it's going to get for him, minus whatever games off he may or may not have, being a two-way guy. But top 100 over the last 2 weeks during a dip with Kyle Kuzma back, I'll take that all day long. Keyshawn George has been getting minutes, not doing anything with them. Both he and Bilal Coulibaly are just top 300 guys. I mean, they've been terrible with Kyle Kuzma back. So I think that Washington's trying to figure out what they're going to do with Kuzma, if they can get any value for him. And then on the Chicago side, Kobe White. I can't say it enough. Kobe White. Just try to go get Kobe White. Let's get to Brooklyn and Denver. Denver, a 15-point favorite here. We got Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson both out for a bit. Cam Johnson probably, I mean, how long could they hold him out for the trade deadline? I guess that's a month away. It seems like a little bit of that right now. D'Angelo Russell out, Day'Ron Sharpe back, Ben Simmons back. For the Denver side, Nikola Jokic questionable with his illness. Aaron Gordon doubtful with the calf injury, so that's actually good news there, that he's not just outright out. What you got with Brooklyn and Denver right now?
I'm all about Noah Clowney right now. He had a huge game in his last one. He's been inconsistent. I want him to have another big game tonight. I'll probably be rolling him in DFS. Keon Johnson has been very interesting. So I like those two guys. And then let's props to Russell Westbrook, man. He settled into a new home in Denver. It seems like the best fit for him we've seen in a long time. So that seems to be working out both for Russ's fantasy value and also the Nuggets.
Yeah, there's all sorts of interesting stuff with these two teams. I mean, I don't think Brooklyn's going to be a good fantasy team anytime soon, but Zaire Williams flirting with top 100 value over his last 4 games in just 23 minutes per game. Keon Johnson, top 180 with the 40% shooting. That's dragging his value down, but he's getting a ton of minutes. Clowney hitting 3-pointers, not much else. Christian Brown starting to cook a little bit, 61% shooting over the last 8 games. It's a top 55 flurry. And then Peyton Watson getting a defensive stats, but not much else. So a lot of interesting stuff with Aaron Gordon out there. Let's get to the Saturday games. We got Houston at Atlanta. But hey, real quick, Russ, must roster?
Westbrook? I mean, he's not available in any of my leagues. And if I saw him on waivers, yes, I would find somebody to cut to pick him up. Inefficient, yeah, but so is Paul George, so is James Harden. I don't care.
He's been great, and the fact that they were able to go get him in Denver, and sort of the laughter that occurred as that was happening, and knowing that Michael Malone would be like a kindred spirit to Russell Westbrook, that seeing it pan out just sort of warms the heart. I didn't lean into it too much, so I don't have Russell Westbrook, I don't think, anywhere, but I'm rooting for it nonetheless. All right, Houston and Atlanta. We got Tari Eason doubtful. What they're doing with Tari Eason, if you're wondering what they're doing with Tari Eason, is they're ramping him up the day before a game and then seeing how it sits on game day. So he's not completely just out and dead in the water and being rested right now. That's the story there. We got Jalen Johnson questionable with that right shoulder, but otherwise these teams are fairly healthy. What you got in this game?
Dude, I need Jalen Johnson playing basketball.
That's hurting you, huh?
This would be like his 3rd missed game in a row, and it feels like he's been out for a month.
It does feel that way.
It's painful. By the way, Russell Westbrook, 80% rostered in ESPN. 80.
That's the backlash right there.
But yeah, I need Jalen Johnson back. As I mentioned earlier, I think Bogdanovich is back. And while I don't think he has a lot of standalone value on his own right now, he's kind of hurting DeAndre Hunter a little bit. Hunter hadn't scored 20 points in like 4 straight. So I'm a little worried about DeAndre Hunter being impacted by Bogdan.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a Jalen Johnson factor, not being there to attract defensive attention or what. But yeah, Hunter, shaky percentages lately. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but I remember looking and seeing that they were really, really low lately. Amin Thompson, top 100 on the season, top 40 over the last 2 weeks, top 25 over the last week. I mean, this is why I have him ranked so highly in the B150 is it took you pull one pin out of the Houston Rockets situation, and Amin's going to just suck all of that up and take off. And that's what he's done. Jalen Green has been good lately. That's your sign to try to get rid of him. Cam Whitmore not getting it done. What else on Atlanta's side? Vic Krejci's actually been interesting. Which one?
Totally getting it done.
Cam Whitmore walked off the court all pissed off the other day. I thought that was fun. In terms of walking off the court pissed off, I think he's getting it done.
So your takes on Houston are interesting. So you are
always
saying sell high on Jalen Green.
Yes,
totally.
Yeah, I guess
at all costs.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it feels like they like their squad. It feels like they want to run with Jalen Green into the playoffs. So, especially with an additional injury taking up minutes and sort of distributing, I think Houston might be better with one player injured. And even though I like Jabari Smith a lot, and I think that he's really key for them, it's too many guys not getting enough shots is never a good recipe in my book. Let's jump over to Utah at Phoenix. We got John Collins questionable, Clarkson out for a bit, Keontae George questionable, Sensabaugh questionable with an illness. On the Phoenix side, we got Royce O'Neal out, and it seems like he's getting pretty close. We got Yusuf Nurkic. I don't know why I call him Nurkic. He's a DNP last night. Nurkic. Yeah. Anyway, what do you got for Utah and Phoenix? It's like two completely different situations. What's catching your eye there?
I mean, Colin Sexton is pretty reliable, right? He's one of the few scorers that's actually healthy on
Took a bit.
I kind of like Bryce Sensabaugh, but he's hurt, and I was sort of rolling a little Sensabaugh out there, but I'm kind of giving up on that. I just think Colin Sexton is good. I'd say sell high on Lauri Markkanen because the Jazz are in their lottery bound. The tank is coming. and this Laurie Markkinen party fiesta is going to end sooner than later.
Yeah, what's interesting, okay, so I've been measuring this tank fest because I got John Collins ranked pretty highly and got him in a couple places and feel like he's pretty important to my fantasy future. But it feels like they're clustering their injuries, and maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just tinfoil hat stuff. But that's kind of, you got to wear a tinfoil hat with teams like Utah at this time of year to figure out, all right, hey, are they full on into the tank? And our players like the aforementioned Laurie Markkinen, John Collins, even Walker Kessler, are they going to start seeing shutdowns? And because they're clustering guys in questionable statuses, and there's just tons of questionable statuses all the time, that's got my ears perked up. I'm not panicking with John Collins. Don't drop John Collins. Probably don't do anything with John Collins. Just wait and see if he can get it going again. But even his last 2 games weren't good prior to all this time off. And then Sensabaugh, his last 2 games, 30 points a game, 6 triples and more. That's real interesting stuff. I don't think he's going to be that good statistically. If he gets a big extended run, I don't think he's going to have like some great stat set, but he is a guy that will shoot, and they will need that if they're tanking down the stretch. You got any Phoenix takes?
Your boy Grayson Allen.
You're going to talk about Grayson, aren't you?
7 of 8, 23 points last game. But before that, he was 3 of 7 for 9 points.
This is all going to happen on one episode, so you can just have this all in one episode. All of this talking about my favorite players, just one episode.
I'm still not sold on Grayson Allen. I'm just not feeling it.
Well, he's not doing the connector stuff that he did last season, and I think being in the middle of the action offensively somehow contributed to more defensive stats, even though that didn't bear out really in the statistical analysis. Just feels like he's been on the outside of the game looking in, but he's been fine. Top 115 over the last 4 contests, 13 points and 3 triples with good percentages over that span. So he's definitely a late round guy right now. And if he gets a little bit more help, maybe he can be more of a mid round guy. I'm not touching the centers in Phoenix, but
why is Mason Plumlee afraid to shoot the ball?
Have you seen him shoot the ball?
Yeah, I mean, if he's 2 feet away from the basket, though, dude.
Yeah, I think that happens to guys. Like, is he afraid to go to the foul line? I don't know. I don't know.
Is Ryan Dunn good or bad? I can't tell.
It's not as easy as it looked in the preseason. But this team is really struggling. I mean, Nurk didn't even get talked to about his DNP. I thought that was interesting. They just straight up benched him. No discussion with Mike Budenholzer at all. I don't know why Nurk's catching a stray here, but they clearly want Bradley Beal to feel uncomfortable right now. And they want him to waive that trade clause and get him out. And I think the funny thing is I don't think he's going to budge until like the very last second. He's just going to play it straight-faced and stay there and play off the bench and shoot and score probably 25 plus a game. But a really weird situation. That's not going to work well for the supporting cast. I mean, Ryan Dunn's been actually good over the last 10 games, top 135 value, just under 3 cash counters, 3 steals and blocks per game. But that number's driven by a 0.3 turnover mark. So that's a little bit misleading there. Yeah, I don't know. They need to make that trade. And the NBA needs that trade to happen as well, because I think a lot of this stuff kind of makes the NBA look just ineffective when you got players that aren't playing games that should be playing games. Toronto at Detroit. We got Ochai Agbaji questionable with a hip issue. Bruce Brown questionable due to rest. We got Tim Hardaway Jr. on the Detroit side questionable with back tightness. Otherwise, mostly healthy. We got Scotty Barnes is interesting to me, but what else you got in this Toronto-Detroit fest?
I would like to see a pop game from Emmanuel Quickly. We got one, his first game of the year, and then it's just been kind of quiet. And then Grady Dick has really fallen off. He is terrible. The last time I looked at his stat line, it was gross. It was like 0 for 3 and nothing. So kind of wondering where he went. And like, is it sell high time on Scotty Barnes? Like, the Raptors are not going to the playoffs. I hate to break it to you, but is Scotty Barnes going to be shut down?
I mean, if there was ever a candidate, it's him. He's been a top 40 guy over the last 7 games, so that's a little bit of an improvement. Might be your last best chance to do that. And I think if you lose on that kind of a play where you sell Scotty Barnes high, quote unquote high, and then he just starts going off. He's a second round guy, maybe late first round guy. He's just having a ball out there. I think you could just tip your hat to the basketball gods and say you did the right thing and live with that. I think this one's unfortunately, I think he was due for a better season, but things didn't work out that way. Detroit, my Detroit Pistons.
You said but.
I said but. Thanks, Beavis. We got Detroit, my Detroit Pistons, my lifelong favorite team, the Detroit Pistons, 19-19 now. JB Bickerstaff, clearly the coach of the year, in my opinion. Of course, I'm just running game, just talking about this big bet. Or Kenny Atkinson, who's like, I don't know he's like a minus 500 or something off the top of my head. My hope there is that they go through a dip in Cleveland and then maybe some turmoil, and then Detroit continues to rise. The Jaden Ivey thing with him being out and me wondering if he's like, maybe he's I'm a big fan, but the high usage, maybe it's not as efficient as everybody on the court would like, and you remove a player like that, and maybe everybody's starting to get enough basketballs to be happy. You got Jalen Duren, top 70 over the last 5 games. He's been averaging 3 defensive stats per game. Not sure how that would be linked to offense, but at least he's moving around out there. Sar Thompson, top 75 with 2.7 steals over the last 3 games, 18 minutes per game. Still a little hard to trust that this is going to continue. Tobias Harris, top 60 over the last 2 weeks, top 40 over the last 5 games. So it feels like everybody's playing better. Obviously, Detroit got back to even. They're 500 now. They almost had the game against the Warriors last night. That was a clear Detroit's going to run out of gas and Golden State needs a win real bad kind of a game. So I don't know. With Detroit, they're going to have to do some things.
I'm waiting for Sarah Thompson to pop.
It could be big.
We've been talking.
It could be real big.
Like, especially the last couple of weeks. Like, okay, Jaden Ivey's out. Now Alcera has to pop, but then he got hurt. I mean, he got sick. The numbers haven't been great. I feel like tonight is crucial. Like, if Alcera Thompson doesn't pop tonight, I'm gonna have a tough time holding on.
Well, the good news is maybe they're just kind of holding him back and just they don't want to ramp him up so fast. That's the only thing I can think of with the minutes right now. Especially, I mean, when you do go down a Jaden Ivey, and we'll get some info with Tim Hardaway Jr. If he doesn't play in this one, that's even more minutes available for everybody. If Asar Thompson doesn't start to creep up into the 20-25 range, then it's pretty clear that he is, on a pretty heavy minutes limit. But what would you call him, a mustache player right now?
I mean, I've been calling him that for 2 weeks, and I guess I'm still calling him that, but I have my doubts, and I haven't seen it come to fruition. He did have that double-double, the 10 and 10 on Saturday, but then he didn't play for 5 days, and then the next time he played wasn't great. 17 minutes. So either they're super tight with his minutes and they're conserving him and trying to protect him, or I don't know, man. It's just one game he plays 25 minutes, the next game he plays 14. It's been that way for a while. So just let him play 23 minutes every night and let's see what we've got. That's all I want.
I almost want to see it from a reality. I mean, obviously I got the Detroit rooting interest, but I just want to see it from a reality basketball perspective. He's really huge. His brother Amin's thin and springy and bouncy, and Asar, with all that time off, it just feels like he stayed in the weight room, and he's this specimen out there. And I just want to see who he can cover at a high level. Like, where do you deploy an Asar Thompson? And, is that going to possibly be a difference maker for Detroit in the win-loss thing that's so important to me? Hey guys, before I get into the next game, I want to take a quick 60 seconds here and let you guys know why Sports Ethos exists in the first place. And the biggest reason is that there's a real love and a real demand for fantasy sports and sports in general. And I also love these games and believe we need to hold on to these types of things in our lives because they bring people together, and that's desperately needed these days. Problem is, there's about 100 problems with the sports industry, and the big one is everybody's downsizing. Social media is a mess. Free content can't really support an industry. So what we do here at Sports Ethos is give you guys plenty of free content, including our industry best blurb feed. injury reports, shows like this. We want everybody to win. If you guys want to have a higher grade experience playing fantasy sports and back an operation that wants people to get paid so they can actually produce pro grade work, and an operation that's dedicated to offering its subscribers all the key stuff, the best analysis you're going to find, period, tools based on the best industry work product, and the ethos, to do things the right way. If that sounds good to you and want to support us, it's easy. Visit sportsethos.com. Check us out. Consider subscribing. And while you're at it, download the free Sports Ethos app. It is amazing. All right. Thank you guys for listening to that. We got Memphis at Minnesota. Marcus Smart out, but Memphis is otherwise healthy. Minnesota also healthy. So what we got?
You're telling me Memphis is healthy?
As I was looking at it again, I made this last night.
Are you sure that's not a typo? Like, what in the world?
I guess that's right.
That's weird. Very weird.
Marcus Smart's out.
Dante DiVincenzo, another one of your guys. Our guys. I've been
our guys. We share here at Sports
Rick
Ethos.
is not a DiVincenzo guy. You and I.
Yeah, he's just very mad.
Yeah, he's just angry.
He's a Minnesota guy. I mean, I would be angry if I had to watch them play basketball too.
I'm fired up that they finally benched Mike Conley and they're starting Dante DiVincenzo. And I think the best of DiVincenzo is yet to be seen. And he is going to have one of those games very soon where you're just like, oh my gosh, he's going to do something crazy. And he is rostered. I'm looking at ESPN, 44.7. So that's a pretty high number for an ESPN league. So 45% means he's available in 55% of ESPN leagues. One thing that just hit me, ESPN is Dante and Keon Ellis as shooting guard only, not point guard eligible. I'm going to fix that when we're done with this podcast, Bru. I'm going to
speak truth to power, baby.
I'm going to
make it happen.
I'm going to
make that happen. I don't really have a lot to say about these guys. I mean, Desmond Bane is curious to me. He's got a month of top 20 value. Can he keep that going? Jaren Jackson, shout out, solid mid-second round value. Anthony Edwards averaging 36 points over his last 4 games. That was a question I had for you. As maybe, I don't know, I went high on or big on Anthony Edwards myself. I know you got a good opinion of him. Is he about to go off?
I hope.
Is he going to do the thing he did last year?
It's about that time, right? It's been long enough. I'm tired of all the threes that he is shooting. Like he needs to just put his head down and take it to the rack. And I do think he's playing much better now than he was before. And I still can't really get a read on if he's happy or not. I don't think he's thrilled to be in Minnesota. He's thrilled to be playing with Rudy Gobert. The only people that like playing with Rudy Gobert are the centers that are playing against him every night and putting him on a poster.
I love it. Hey, you know what? I'm here for it. I don't know. Yeah, I think it could be time.
Shout out to Jaren Jackson Jr., man. I don't think a lot of us have kind of written him off as overhyped. He's never going to live up to it. And he's sort of living up to it this year. And he's good, man. Like Memphis is sneaky good when they're healthy.
Yeah, I don't even know that's why they were the only team I didn't do an over under bet with, because they're just weird. It's just weird. They were healthy as I read off the injury report. I don't know how to make heads or tails of this group. Dante DiVincenzo, top 100 over the last 11 games, top 180 over the last 4 games. So he's dipped lately. So there's another chance for you guys to get in there. Miami at Portland. What do we got? Miami mostly healthy. You got Portland, Robert Williams questionable, Jeremy Grant questionable. What are we doing with that game?
The only hotter pickup in fantasy to me than Keon Ellis is Jaime Jaquez. He's in the starting lineup. Jimmy's suspended and probably will never play with the Heat again. And they've suddenly decided that, oh, wait, we have Jaime Jaquez, and he was really good last year. So let's play him and see what happens. Triple-double, solid numbers. I think he's locked in the starting role the rest of the way. You've got to get him on your team, especially if he's available in your league on waivers. And Nikola Jovic is another guy who's playing really well, quietly playing well for the Heat, and is available. I think he's rostered in like 7% of ESPN leagues. So go get him as well.
I forget what game it was. If it was the Warriors game or the Kings game, he had a heat check 3 and Spo was like, nah, buddy, you can't do that just yet. And then Jaquez against Keon Ellis the other night was great television. I had a tweet go around the world where Keon just bodied him up as he was driving to the rim, just took the ball from him. And then as he's falling out of bounds with the ball in his hand, he throws it against Jaquez's head, shoulder. I don't know what it hit, but it was it was a good battle. And Jaquez he's kind of the real deal. Like he's done this. He did it against Boston in the playoffs. He was the only guy that kind of showed up in that lopsided series. So he's a good player. It's the stat set that's always kind of kept me and I'm sure others worried. But if he's going to get the ball and he's going to keep doing what he's doing, he's been a top 75 guy over the last 4 games. It's been awesome. Khalil Ware caught my eye. It's actually you, Doc. You said his name in a show last week, and I was like, oh, yes, Khalil Ware, that guy. And I dug in, and he had great stats over the last couple games. So I picked him up in a bunch of places. He's been top 200 over the last 4 games in 18 minutes, 2.3 cash counters with 1.8 defensive stats. So he could shoot the 3 a little bit, 0.5 per game in that span. How are you with Khalil Ware? Are you stashing him, or is he more of just kind of a curiosity at this point?
I mean, if I'm in a deep league and I could get him, I kind of want him. But 12-team league, I don't think he really has much value at this point.
Okay.
But I am super intrigued. And I like the fact that you picked him up and checked out his numbers because he has been pretty good. He's sneaky. And if the Heat decide to, break up the band and give him minutes, he's gonna do stuff. And then in Portland, did you notice the other day that DeAndre Ayton played 21 minutes and scored 6 points? And Donovan Clingan played 25 minutes and had 11 and 11 and 2 blocks.
And a 3. He had a 3.
I think it's time to get Clingan and stash him if he's sitting.
I said that over sometime last week. And then so I did that and I grabbed Clingan in a spot. And then he had a dud right after that. And I said, oh, how dumb was I? That was dumb. And then it comes back. And this is the sign that either he's got his wind back, whatever it is. It's not that I doubt Donovan Clingan. It's more, is he hurt? Is Portland not ready to move him up? It feels like he just checked a couple boxes here and he's ready to roll.
Portland has got to let him play and get him minutes and get him ready for next year. Like if they're ever going to do anything, he's going to be a focal point of it. And the fact that he's sitting over there on the bench watching DeAndre Ayton as Portland plays their way out of the playoffs doesn't make any sense to me. Like, let Clingan play. If I lived in Portland and was a big Portland fan, I would be pissed off that I do not get to watch Donovan Clingan play basketball. Speaking of Portland, Bru, we had a snowstorm come through this morning. It started snowing at like 8 o'clock. Guess what I did last night at midnight? I parked.
Please tell us what you did.
I parked my car up at the top of the driveway so that I could get in it and go get beer if I need to. The other 2 cars are still in my driveway. Those are not coming out all weekend. Like, we can't get out of our driveway. So if I played for the Portland Trailblazers and didn't move that car up there, I wouldn't be able to get to the game for like 4 days.
So you're saying you're more responsible about your beer needs than DeAndre Ayton is about his NBA basketball career?
You're more about Creature Comforts Tropicalia than DeAndre Ayton cares about basketball. Yeah.
This game's not about Jimmy Butler. It's not about anything else other than watching these 2 young centers play. Like Donovan Clingan, if he's going off in this one, it might be too late for you guys to pick him up. So I strongly recommend that you guys add Donovan Clingan, unless your team is just rocking and rolling with top 75 guys and you don't care. Clingan, I think, for the back end of the season just could go off. Let's get to San Antonio and the Lakers. So the Lakers coming off a rescheduled game. Prayers out to the folks in LA as they deal with all of the craziness out there. We got San Antonio, Jeremy Sohan questionable with a back issue. And actually, I'm kind of curious if they even play this game. Anthony Davis and LeBron are probable. What do you got?
Has it not been postponed?
As of last night, I didn't see a postponement.
I saw something this morning. Maybe I saw they're thinking about postponing. I'll be shocked if they play, man. what is happening to Los Angeles is Armageddon. Like it's bad enough on TV. I can't even imagine like being there in the middle of it and being a part of that. It is absolutely depressing, and it's the worst thing, one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah, we saw it up here in Northern California for about 3-4 years, where those fires were just kind of ripping down the mountainsides. It's even worse in LA. There's a virtual wind tunnel that goes down the side of the coast, up over the mountains, and then down the mountains into where the fire hit everybody so hard and so fast. And that's the thing. This stuff goes so fast.
Is Max Christie worth
good?
What's he worth? Is he worth keeping an eye on? Is he worth stashing?
He's been a top 80 guy over the last 12 games.
Okay.
That's what he's been.
You just answered my question.
But I don't know. The percentages are probably unsustainable. He's hitting a ton of free throws, field goals up.
He's playing a ton of minutes.
Like, to get this top 80, here's his other numbers: 13 points, 2 triples, 1.2 steals. So this classic case of percentages driving the value. A lot of folks don't care about percentages so much. So I don't know. I think it's to be determined. He's in a good spot, but Lakers have been a little dinged up over the last week or so, and I'm not all the way sold. I think there's a lot of good momentum for him, but I got a little bit of doubt in there.
I kind of like him, dude. I like the minutes he's getting. For some reason, they've just handed him the keys, and they're like, "Hey, dude, go do your thing." And he has good nights and bad ones, but overall, I feel like Christie is a guy, especially on weeks when the Lakers play 4 times. I think you want Christie for a 4-game week. You know what I'm saying? And he is rostered in 5.5% of ESPN leagues.
My God.
A lot of these guys we talk about, you can't get, like, they're all gone. But so I think when we find a guy who's super low rostered and he's getting kind of hot, I think that's a good thing, because a lot of these guys are listening to us can't pick up the guys that we tell them to pick up. Well, Max Christie is a top 80 over the last 12-game player that you can go get.
Hell yeah. Austin Reeves top 50 over the last month, so that buy low is really cooking right now. Fun fact that I'm sure you guys have seen. Wembanyama averaging 8.3 cash counters, threes, blocks, and steals per game with 25 and 11 and 4 assists. That's crazy. Let's get to Charlotte at the Clippers.
Bru, by the way, real quick on Wemby, have you seen? And if you say no, I'm going to feel stupid because I don't have it in front of me. Have you seen that thing of where he stands historically after 200 basketball games?
No, is he like a top 30 player of all time?
First in points, first in rebounds, first in blocks, first in threes.
Yeah,
he's got more threes than Clay. He's got more. The numbers are just, and he's got more blocks than Shaq. He's got more. He's number one in like 10 categories. After
what
200
is
games.
Going to look like in 3 years when he gets the feel for the game at the highest level, and then they really put players around him that complement him? It's going to be crazy. It's going to probably break basketball a little bit, but
it's going to break basketball.
I'm good with it. And then there'll be another guy just like it, 8 feet tall, who does the same stuff. Charlotte at Clippers. We got Mark Williams questionable. Now the front end of their back-to-back was postponed yesterday, so maybe that brings him back into the game. This game's also in LA as well, so who knows if it gets played or not. He's been a top 50 guy, Mark Williams, but what do you got in this game? Oh, Kawhi Leonard's out dealing with the fires.
What?
That's
you're kidding me. You're kidding.
I mean, my eyes might be wrong, but
are you? That's unbelievable. All right. LaMelo Ball. If you have LaMelo Ball, let him go off in this game on Saturday, because he will, and then trade him. Get him off your team. How many wins for Charlotte? 8. 8 wins. No reason to keep running him out there on those ankles, man. The clock is ticking. He's a time bomb. Sell high.
Yeah, the runniness of his value, it just feels so slippery. I just, one day he's a top 20 guy, and next day he's just going to be out for the rest of the season dealing with an ankle injury. I just don't know. Nick Richards back on the radar. Interesting. Just 17 minutes per game, but not being terrible. So I'm not saying go out and get Nick Richards, but it's weird that he's like on and then off and then on and then off. It's been mostly off, I think, this season, but especially due to the injury, but at least he's not been dead, of late. Let's get to the Sunday games. We got Denver at Dallas. And I already talked about Denver, but let's talk about Dallas because they got a lot going on here. We got Kyrie Irving out for a while. Daniel Gafford returned. He played 10 minutes. He had a decent line in those 10 minutes. Was it 4 rebounds, 3 blocks in 10 minutes? So I guess that's a decent sign that he's healthy. Maybe they were looking ahead to this back-to-back. But we got 2 massive pieces out for Dallas. And this is what it looked like last night. Derek Lively, 21 and 16 with 3 blocks. Najee Marshall, 26 minutes, just 11 and 4. Dinwiddie, 17 points with a full line in 35 minutes. Klay Thompson, just 3 points and 4 assists on 1 of 6 shooting. Grimes, 13 points and otherwise full line. And then Jaden Hardy, 25 points, 5 threes, and not much more. What are you doing with this mess?
I think Gafford is a hold. Let's let him get some more minutes back. And it's too bad, man. I wish Gafford and Lively played on different teams, right? Like, they totally buzzkill each other. And that Quentin Grimes thing, like, he's playing good. And I think he's been the best player, fill-in player that they've got since Kyrie and Luka went down. And Spencer Dinwiddie, obviously, I think he's a must-own player. But Quentin Grimes is sneaky.
Sneaky. I love it. All right, we got Indy at Cleveland as our last game. We've already talked about Indy. Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell probable. I kind of feel like he's due for a big game, but you got a smoking hot Cleveland Cavaliers take. Very simple basketball team.
How many games have they won in a row, bro? Is it 15? Is it 20? It's something.
Is it a streak?
33 and 4, dude.
I mean, it's every time I look at their record, I kind of go, wait a second, are they going to try to beat the Warriors? Like, what's going on here? And that's why I think, like, if we're asking, is this team that good? Like, is Mitchell? He's obviously very, very good. Garland, pretty damn good.
And he carried them with 40 points against Toronto when Donovan Mitchell was resting and just chilling.
When he was struggling last season, even into the playoffs, like, that's just like, it seems like years ago.
I didn't know if Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell could coexist, but they absolutely can, and they're killing it. Ty Jerome.
The key to this piece is Mobley. Like, Mobley does so much out there, and it lets everybody else be very, very good in an easy way. But I mean, I guess I don't spot the flaw. I feel like maybe they're not as great as some of these historically great teams. That's the only thing causing me to think, okay, these guys, if they lost just 4 games almost halfway through the season, what does the second half of the season look like? Do they lose 10 games? Do they lose 15 games? If they lose 15 more games in the second half of the season and kind of keep it going, they'll have 20 losses against 62 wins. That's an amazing season. 62 wins.
It's interesting. They're a good team when Donovan Mitchell sits out and we have no idea who they're going to start in his place. It turned out to be Karis LeVert. It could have been Ty Jerome. It could have been Ike Okoro. They are so good. And there's not a lot of quality fantasy takes because the only guys that are obvious are LeVert and Jerome. And, if you're in a deep league, they're probably already rostered. And if you're not in a deep league, they're too inconsistent to hold. So
and they're so good that the team overall is so good that those 2 guys in particular, they can be really good in a fantasy, not really good, but, late round or maybe better on a given night. But they can do that because they're so good. They're going to, the starters are going to get out to a big lead, and then those guys are going to get plenty to eat. Everybody's producing. It's just a great situation in Cleveland. I need them to lose like 30 games in the second half of the year. And then I think I got myself a big bet.
Did we just go through 30 teams in less than an hour?
Well, it just depends on how much we talk right now. Hey, guys, let's wrap this up because there's some people that really want this show to have a 5 instead of a 1. in front of the clock as we wrap it up. But hey, guys, really seriously, all kidding aside, we want to thank you guys. All the questions, we've been getting some great feedback. We're making a ton of investments in the platform right now. And please do send us a wish list. What do you guys want? Send us what you want so we can incorporate that into our timeline here. Subscribe to all of the stuff. We're putting different content out to different platforms. So you want to make sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up button so it shows up in your algorithm. Hit the subscribe button so you get a notice every time we go on air. Follow us on all the different socials at SportsEthos, at Ethos Fantasy NBA. Guys, if you're watching, go download the app. That's the big one. Go download the app. That thing's amazing. I use it all the time now. It's basically my shortcut through social media to just get the stuff I need and not much more. I can't do it, Andre. I can't do it. Thank you, Andre, though, for running a great show. The way that you put this all together is amazing. When I do it, it's all just a runniness mess. Thank you, guys. This has been Fantasy NBA Today, presented by BetOnline. I will get laughed out of the room for that last comment when we get off air. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well. Just a shaking of the head. A shaking of the head right there. That's all